Joining us live in studio to help break down this race is Dr. Mark Owens, a political science professor at the Citadel. Mark, thank you for being here.
Yeah, happy to.
So we're at 5 Republican candidates so far in this race. It's not until next year. Is it typical to see a crowded field like this in an open seat election?
It is. So for the open seat election, we're now at this moment where the representatives in D.C. are, in this case, on their recess. The legislature is out, and this is an opportunity to be out with all the voters. And so as people jumped in early, just like 6 weeks to 2 months ago with Attorney General Alan Wilson, it's moving into the idea about other candidates making sure that if he's being active on the campaign, they match the same intensity.
Like you said, we have candidates coming from D.C., we have candidates in Columbia. Talk a little bit about the journey that they now face to hopefully, in their position, securing the Republican nomination.
Yeah, we have to look back that it has not been since Governor Mark Sanford that someone was able to come from D.C. to the governorship, but also he was the first one to have beaten a Democrat, or most recently. We've had Republican governors since then. So these candidates are going to be looking for how do they identify what politics will be to the future. They don't want to necessarily criticize the current governor, right? They're talking about how they could build, what the future of South Carolina will be like. And the economy has been a central role to that. But we've also seen critical questions about education and also immigration and infrastructure.
You started reading my mind a little bit there, but what are, aside from what you just kind of said, some of the main issues you expect to be top of mind for South Carolina voters when it comes to deciding their next governor?
I think so. We saw the legislature this last year move towards cutting parts of the income tax and showing to the governor's last goal of how this would occur beyond his term in office. She talked about accelerating that and had a couple ways of cutting spending to show those points of view. And that's actually when she talked about taking out boards and commissions that are in the legislature. That's been similar to the things that we've seen in the last 8 years, but it's also opposite to what Representative Norman had talked about when he said he wants to utilize those boards to bring the public into the governing process. So we're seeing a difference now, especially as how all these candidates are talking about populism, how to bring the people into the governor's mansion or into Columbia, and they're doing that from their connection to the voters in D.C.
And lastly, we've already seen it a little bit, some of these candidates sort of touting their working relationship with President Donald Trump so far. How important is a presidential endorsement in a race like this, and when do you think that may come?
Yeah, I think in this case it might come late. I would expect it in 2026, but almost in this case to the early summer, right? He has to be careful in where that decision is going to go, but also there's a lot of endorsements that were made very early. When we look at the sheriffs, we also look at Senator Jim DeMint, who had served in previous years, has endorsed Representative Norman. There's going to be a lot of money in this election for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, Dr. Mark Owens, thank you so much for being here. I'm sure we'll see more of you along the campaign trail.